Now, the latest from ITV News Meridian in the south.
Good evening, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the south. The lockdown that cost Gatwick Airport £1 million. The gunman who caused it walks free from court.
One man dead and 4 injured after a chemical incident on the Isle of Wight.
Healing honey researchers unlock its secret in the battle to protect people from superbugs like MRSA.
And meet Oliver, slimming's greatest loser. He shed 25 stone. How does he look now? Good evening to you. It was a security scare that put Gatwick in lockdown and cost the airport £1 million in lost business.
A Frenchman was seen dumping an air rifle in a bin in the departure hall just hours after 130 people were killed in the Paris terror attacks.
But Jerome Charisse walked free from court as a jury accepted his defence that his lack of English meant he was confused by the signs at Gatwick. They took just 9 minutes to find him not guilty, as Malcolm Shaw reports.
Lockdown at Gatwick Airport, the North Terminal evacuated of thousands of passengers, many flights cancelled. The security alert happened when a man was seen putting what appeared to be a gun into a bin. That man was Jerome Charisse. The 41-year-old was trying to board a flight home to France, but with poor English, he struggled to understand why EasyJet check-in staff wanted him to pay extra for his luggage. The court heard that because he had no money on him, Jerome Charisse then started throwing away some of his personal belongings into a bin. They included a large air rifle. Armed police quickly moved in to arrest and search him. They discovered he was also carrying a lock knife. It happened when the airport was on high alert, just hours after 130 people died in the Islamic State attacks in Paris. By the time he arrived at Gatwick, Charisse had already travelled from New Caledonia in the South Pacific to Japan and on to Heathrow. He was charged with possessing an air rifle in an aerodrome and a lock knife in a public place. But the court heard it was legal to possess both in New Caledonia and France. Charisse had served in the French army for 15 years and kept the weapons as mementos. The jury took just 9 minutes to find Charisse not guilty of both the charges he faced. The judge said that perhaps the most worrying aspect of the case was that the authorities allowed such items on an aircraft. Dealing with the security alert cost £1.2 million. Tonight, Gatwick told us police and airport staff take very seriously any incident or behaviour they think could endanger safety and security. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News.
And there's more on that story on our website. Just go to itv.com/Meridian.
In other news, a man's died after a chemical incident at Cowes on the Isle of Wight. It happened at a house on St Mary's Road last night. 4 people, including 2 paramedics, were also injured at the scene. Police say they're not treating the death as suspicious.
We didn't know what was going on, and seeing that it was a chemical incident, we thought, oh well, you know, are we going to be safe? Is my daughter going to be all right? So we shut all the windows. No one come up to us telling us that we had to vacate or anything like that. So we presumed that it was being controlled and handled fairly well, actually, because you know, it was a very quick response.
A woman who died when her car hit a deer at Micheldever has been named as Ivory Lapitan. The 24-year-old's vehicle crashed into a tree after colliding with the animal on the A33 on Monday morning.
The death of a man in Brighton is no longer being treated as murder. Georgi Yashuk, who was 23, died after a fight spilled onto the road and he was hit by a lorry. It happened in the early hours of April the 10th. 3 men arrested on suspicion of murder have been released without charge.
Firefighters have been dealing with a large blaze at a thatched cottage near Basingstoke. It broke out at Spring Cottage in Nutley just after 9 o'clock this morning. 75% of the roof is still alight.
A masked man has robbed a shop in Basingstoke at knife point. It happened at the One Stop on Sherborne Road in Oakridge on Tuesday night. He made off with more than £200 and headed towards Popley. Police would like to hear from anyone who saw anything.
Commuters are facing further delays after a landslip on the railway line between Farnham and Alton. The track has been shut since the embankment became unstable.
The rock and soil fell away from the track at Recklesham. It's believed it was caused by heavy rain earlier this month. Engineers are now working to make the area safe, as Sally Simmons reports.
Just south of Farnham in Surrey, they're working 24/7 to repair the railway line. A fortnight ago, engineers noticed the crushed stone supporting the rails was sliding away at Recklesham. The line had to be closed. This is where the land slipped down the embankment, and at one point there was a 6 feet gap underneath the rails. A routine survey picked up the damage before the line became dangerous for passengers.
We have very rigorous safety procedures in place, and we've got people working around the clock most days. I mean, you might not see them because they're working at night a lot of the time, but our engineers are out there carrying out safety inspections and carrying out maintenance on the railway every single day of the year.
Network Rail is still investigating why the ground gave way. Heavy rain could be to blame, but this line was built in 1852 and has supported steam, electric and diesel trains for over 160 years. Thousands of commuters rely on the half-hour daily service to Waterloo. Replacement buses are adding 20 minutes of journey time for passengers from Alton. The contractors have had to lift 250 metres of track. The plan is to shift it over to the right-hand side, and then the line will reopen by May the 9th. A speed restriction will be in place as the rail will swerve off its usual path to allow work to continue. But for the next 10 days, bulldozers are the only vehicles allowed here. Sally Simmons, ITV News, Recklesham.
Other news, CCTV's been released after an attempted armed robbery at a jewellery store in Andover. It happened yesterday morning at David Mellor Jewellers in Waterloo Court. Two thieves approached the store on a black scooter and tried to smash the glass shop front with hammers and a knife. They were chased off by the manager and nothing was taken.
An e-fit has been released of a man police want to talk to following an attack in Lymington. A 44-year-old man was walking along the underpass at Empress Lane when two men punched him in the face.
Talks are due to be held tomorrow to prevent a further strike by staff at Southern Rail. A 24-hour walkout ended yesterday. 2 further walkouts are planned for next month. Meanwhile, station staff are being balloted for industrial action over the closure of ticket offices and the introduction of lone working at stations. The company says there'll be no reduction in the services it provides.
A nightclub in Southampton has escaped closure after 2 people were stabbed outside the venue in January. Instead, the Junk Club on London Road has been told to install metal detectors and close 2 hours earlier. A report found there have been 23 assaults and 4 drug offences between January 2015 and March this year.
People living in Poole are being warned of major traffic disruption as millions are spent on the town's roads. The aim is to improve access and boost growth at the port, but it means the town's original lifting bridge and gravel hill will be closed for several months.
Horsham's Shelley Fountain will be demolished. Councillors approved the plans at a meeting last night. Repairs and maintenance have cost more than £200,000 since it was installed 20 years ago, and the water hasn't been turned on since 2013. The area will now be landscaped.
Well, you're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. We're delighted you are. Thanks very much for choosing us. Coming up, Amanda Houston has the very latest weather forecast.
Plus, at his heaviest, Oliver Bales weighed 39 stones. But you won't believe what he looks like now.
No, it's quite a story, and for more on all of our stories, head to itv.com/Meridian. Any views or news, call us please, 0808 1010 095, the number to ring, or get in touch via Facebook, or why not send us a tweet at ITV Meridian.
Now, tomorrow sees the publication of a long-awaited report into the quality of care at Southern Health. The NHS Trust looks after people with mental health and learning disabilities and adult social care.
It is facing damning criticism for failing to investigate hundreds of unexpected deaths, with serious concerns about leadership.
Well, Rachel Hepworth is in our newsroom now. What can we expect to see in this report?
Well, Stacey, we can't preempt it, but we can expect it to be highly critical of the way Southern Health has been operated. The CQC took the unusual step of issuing a warning notice earlier this month, saying it had failed to learn from several deaths and needed to make significant improvements to protect patients. Concerns were first raised after the death of 18-year-old Connor Sparrowhawk, who drowned in a bath at a care home in Oxford in 2013. Well, yesterday we learned that the Trust knew there were concerns from staff about conditions at the home 10 months before his death, but bosses failed to take effective action.
So what have Southern Health said they're doing to improve safety and public trust?
Well, we have tried incredibly hard to speak to the Chief Executive, Katrina Percy, but she doesn't want to be interviewed. Because of patient confidentiality, it is very difficult for us to show examples of what is being done. Southern Health have assured us that measures are being put in place, and they did allow us to speak to one staff member, an acute pathway matron at the Elmley unit in Hampshire. I first asked her what it's like to be working under such scrutiny in the light of such criticism.
It's really, really difficult, you know, when there's a microscope on you and people are trying to do their day-to-day jobs. But throughout all of the CQC reports over the past few years, the one resounding factor is that we are a caring service and we do want to do our absolute best for our patients. There's an ongoing programme of works to make sure that we reduce the amount of ligatures. There's been lots of pipe work blocked off. There was lots of exposed piping around there. That's all been taken away. The physical environment's really, really important, but the most important thing is engagement with service users. It's absolutely devastating when we lose somebody. And you know, the ripple effect is felt for everybody. The staff here feel awful when that happens, and we do as much as we possibly can to support the staff and obviously the families as well. If I thought for 1 second coming in to this environment we weren't making a difference to people and supporting people at the most vulnerable time, I wouldn't be doing the job that I'm doing, and I know I can say that absolutely for every single member of staff that works here.
So very interesting to see what it's like at the sharp end there, and really important to remember that Southern Health is a huge organisation providing care for some 45,000 people, employing 9,000 staff, many of whom are doing an extremely challenging job. The criticisms on the whole have been about policy at senior level, and it will be very interesting to see if pressure will continue to build on them tomorrow, particularly with reaction from families who feel that they and their loved ones have already been let down. We'll also find out what's to happen to Southern Health and how critical the Care Quality Commission has been about managers there.
Rachel Hepworth, thank you very much for that.
Well, the EU referendum is getting closer, 55 days away in fact. A lot of you still haven't made up your minds, which, given the complexities of the argument and the lack of firm facts, is perhaps quite understandable.
But perhaps this might help you. Robert Peston looks at the case for leaving or staying in the second of two programmes tonight. He examines how security at home might be affected and how the vote could influence immigration in the future. What does controlling our borders mean in a post-Brexit world?
Stay in the European Union or leave? It's the biggest question facing this nation. The government have decided they are not fit to choose, so it's down to us to judge whether we'll be safer, richer, more in control of our destiny, inside or out.
There's 60,000 migrant drivers driving in the UK at the moment, predominantly Polish drivers. We need those drivers.
We could decide exactly who could come from wherever, all over the world. We could have the pick of the world instead of just having to be biased towards the EU.
In terms of what happens to expats living and working abroad, I think, again, that's an open question. There's bound to be a shaking of the kaleidoscope. No one knows how the pieces are going to fall after the 23rd of June upon Brexit. There's bound to be reciprocal arrangements with those countries, and they will fall to be negotiated on either on a country-by-country basis or potentially with all of the European economic area. And that could take years to resolve itself. So we simply don't know the answer to that at present.
Anybody who tells you they know what will happen if we leave the EU is a liar. This is a nuanced debate. It's shades of grey. We don't really know. So how anyone can be 100% committed to either side. And I think that puts the public off.
Peston there, and that's on this evening on ITV, of course, at 7:30 p.m. tonight. Europe in or out?
That is the very big question. Now, for centuries, the healing properties of honey have been well known, but until now, no one has really understood exactly how it works.
But researchers in Hampshire have been unlocking its secrets and using what they've found to tackle serious infections. It could even prove a valuable tool in the fight against the most resistant superbugs like MRSA.
Well, Christine Alsford reports, but a warning, her report contains images of nasty wounds.
It's healed extremely well.
Fully recovered and back at home. But when Roger Backhouse travelled to India on holiday last year, his foot started to swell and he began to feel unwell. He spent most of his vacation laid up and in hospital.
I was diagnosed with a disease called necrotizing fasciitis. What I was told was that it was a skin-eating disease, and its worst form could spread up to the heart very quickly, and then it was curtains.
That's your right foot. When he returned home to Winchester, part of his treatment, bioengineered honey, applied directly to the affected areas.
Within a fairly short period of time, say half an hour, I was aware of the sense of healing.
So you could actually feel it getting better?
I could feel it getting better, yes, and that is not a lie.
Roger's honey treatment was prescribed by consultant Matthew Dryden.
Sergi honey is a delivery mechanism. It's based on real honey, but what it delivers are these reactive oxygen molecules at a much higher level that are able to eliminate all resistant bacteria. I think this is a really significant development in the management of infection. It's not going to replace antibiotics, it's going to act with antibiotics to help control these multi-resistant bacteria.
This is basically the inside of the nasal cavity.
New uses for medical honey are now being investigated by teams of researchers, including those at the University of Southampton. They're looking at how to treat resistant and recurrent infections in patients with long-term sinus problems. Many of the samples that the team are working with here are so infectious that it's good practice to keep them behind this protective glass to keep them sterile. But Ali, you're going to explain to us what you've been finding.
Yeah, so these are plates full of bacteria that have been untreated, and you can see these circular wells full of bacteria. After we treat them with an engineered honey, we can see that the majority of the bacteria are killed off.
It is extremely effective, really excited about the results, and it's not just in Staphylococcus aureus, it seems to be effective also against MRSA, and MRSA is a huge worldwide issue, and if it can also be used to treat MRSA, well, that would be a huge bonus as well.
Doctors predict if we don't find effective alternatives to antibiotics, we'll be heading back to the Dark Ages. Further research now needed to discover what hope a golden future might offer. Christine Alsford, ITV News.
Now, many people want to lose a bit of weight, particularly before the summer. So spare a thought for Oliver Bells, who's 24 and from Portsmouth. He was extremely depressed by his size, weighing 39 stones and often subjected to cruel comments.
He couldn't stand for long periods, had sky-high blood pressure and couldn't fit in seats on public transport and in lecture theatres at university. So he decided to do something about it.
Yes, and he's now lost an incredible 25 stone and half a pound to become Slimming World's greatest loser of 2016.
Delighted to say he's here now. Oliver, extremely well done. You've lost an extraordinary 30 inches from your waist.
Yes.
Did you ever believe this was going to be possible?
No. I mean, literally, just thought I didn't even think that I could, you know, lose a couple of stone, let alone 25.
To show us the enormity of your achievement,
Yeah.
lift up that pair of trousers,
Yeah.
please. These were your trousers 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Look at that. Isn't
Incredible.
that extraordinary?
You're half the size, aren't you, that you used to be? But how did you do it?
Literally, just, I mean, it's literally you can still eat whatever you want. I mean, you've got all your free foods. You've got, you know, have all the fruit and vegetables you want. Have pasta or rice. You can even have chocolate or a glass of wine. Just little treats, you know. But it's just, obviously, it's all under control. It's all under control, and you can still enjoy yourself and have a life.
You're now down to 13 stone, 13 pounds.
Yes.
How much of a nightmare for you was it being so overweight? I mean, it really dragged you down, didn't it?
Yes, it was really, I mean, it was awful. It was really hard to get out of bed sometimes because my back would be so painful. I'd have a really hard time getting up, you know, putting my socks on, that would be really painful.
We know you were also bullied at school, so
Yes.
what was the moment that you decided, I've had enough, I'm going to lose the weight?
I was inspired by a girl who I saw on my Facebook page. I mean, she was doing so well on Slimming World. I mean, that was the kind of sort of point for me. I thought, do you know what, I can do this.
Did you eat because you were bullied, or was it a problem you had from being a very young child?
I think it was sort of that kind of cycle. I mean, yeah, I mean, because I was bullied, it did make me feel down. So, you know, I did feel like the only thing that would make me happy was food, I guess.
You've now started work as a train buffet assistant.
Yeah.
So you've got crisps, chocolate bars, biscuits staring you in the face all day.
Yes.
Is that a temptation?
It is, and it can be quite hard sometimes, especially because first-class customers get free biscuits. So, I mean, they don't get counted, but I shouldn't tell you that. But yeah, basically, it's hard with biscuits staring you in the face all the time. Yeah, chocolate bars. But you know what? It's a challenge, so
But you
it's
manage
easy.
it.
I do manage
You're
it. I do
keeping
manage
the weight
it.
off. You are an inspiration. What would you say to anyone who's watching, who's feeling overweight, has tried and failed? What would you say to them?
Literally, help is just around the corner. Even though they might not know it, help is literally just around the corner. Just go for it. It's right there.
You're an inspiration, sir.
Thank
Many
you so
congratulations.
much. Thank you.
Well done.
Let's hope the weather's going to be inspiring, although I doubt it. Let's find out. Amanda Houston.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Hello again. Well, the weather is looking a little quieter for the start of the bank holiday weekend, but ahead of it, it's still unsettled. So we have got some rain working its way across. There could be the odd moderate burst in there. Although for most of us, the rain will be light and patchy, and it is going to clear as we edge into the overnight period. So behind it, drier, clearer conditions will follow, but we have a breeze tonight, and that's going to keep those temperatures above freezing for most of us. So tomorrow morning, we'll actually get off to a mostly dry start today with some bright or sunny spells. Still quite blustery, especially along the south. Now we may see one or two isolated showers developing for the afternoon. Bye-bye.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Now, before we go, we have a lovely story about a kitten found in a bin with 2 broken legs who has started a new life in France.
Yes, Monty was fostered by a veterinary student in Haywards Heath before taking him to live with grandparents who'd moved abroad. The RSPCA believes it's the first time it's rehomed a pet on the continent. Good luck.
And just a moment, the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale and Mark Austin.
Stacey's got our late news, but for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks for watching. Take care.
Good night.